At number 10, Zac Efron. When you think of Zac Efron, the first thing that might pop into your head will probably be High School Musical, because that's what catapulted him to fame after all. He was one of Disney's biggest and most popular stars because of the High School Musical franchise, as the movies were so successful and his face was plastered on everything from backpacks to candy. But Zac isn't the golden boy that Disney sold him as. He's had his fair share of controversies, like his MLK Day tweet, where he equated MLK's part in the civil rights movement to him reaching 10 million followers on Instagram, and shading Vanessa Hudgens when her private photos got leaked. One of the meanest and most outrageous things that Zac has done was get into a fight with homeless people living on Skid Row. Now, the details of what happened that night vary depending on who you hear it from, but essentially Zac and his friend got into a physical altercation with a group of homeless people, and according to TMZ, Zac threw a bottle at them while he was waiting for a tow truck. Some people said that this fight resulted in Zac getting punched, but again, we don't really know for sure. What we do know is that fighting is not nice, and throwing things at homeless people certainly does not make you a kind person. At number 9, Hilary Duff. When Hilary Duff was on the Disney Channel playing Lizzie McGuire, her character was very much against bullying and hate. In fact, her character faced bullying on a few occasions, so she wasn't the type of person to spread hate on her part. But in real life, Hilary is the complete opposite, and she's kind of mean. In 2018, Hilary got into a bit of a scandal as people called her out for bullying her neighbor. The actress took to her Instagram stories to rant about her rude neighbor, calling them out on how her apartment had smelled like cigarette smoke and Mary Jane because of them, and even ridiculing them on how they afford to live there, saying, quote, "We know your parents pay off your rent, we know you've never worked a day in your life, it must be nice." Hilary really just berated her neighbor publicly, calling them out on many of their actions, but what people really didn't like about this rant is how she used her neighbor's name in the videos. She plastered their name across the screen multiple times, and because of this public exposure, people saw this as bullying, and Instagram even took her videos down because they violated the platform's terms. Usually she comes across as wholesome and nice, but at this moment we got a peek at Hilary's dark side. Now, before I go any further, I'd like to ask you guys to please consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, because it really helps us out a lot. At number 8, Dove Cameron. Another generally wholesome celeb who's exposed a darker, meaner side of themselves is Dove Cameron. Known by Disney fans as the actress from the Disney Channel show Liv and Maddie, and also for her role in the Descendants films, Dove is usually a really nice person online and with her fans, but there came a time when one of her tweets came across as a little harsh and she got cancelled over it. In 2018, one of Dove's fans tweeted her saying how their goal in life was to have Dove notice her, and well, that goal was achieved, but not in the way that they expected. Dove ended up replying to this fan, but instead of sharing some kind of sweet message of support, she instead told them what she really thinks about their desire to be noticed by a celebrity. Dove tweeted saying, quote, "That is a very small and unimportant life goal, and maybe if I notice you, you will realize how unfulfilling it is and turn your phone off because celebrities don't matter. Go find yourself in nature and create your own life philosophy. Aim higher, babe." End quote. People thought that this tweet was unnecessarily aggressive on Dove's part, saying that it's mean for her to essentially tell the person who helped build her career by supporting her that their support is unimportant. What do you guys think? Is it mean or not? At number 7, Christina Aguilera. When thinking about Disney stars, I think you'd have to go pretty far down the list to get to actress and singer Christina Aguilera. A lot of people forget that she was once a Disney star, having been part of the Mickey Mouse Club. Well, from her time with the mouse, things certainly have changed and she's become a pretty mean person. Apparently, there's a lot that makes Christina a mean person. For starters, she's had some bad blood with past members of The Voice, specifically Adam Levine. The two would fight a lot and make for an uncomfortable work environment, but that's not all. She's also had feuds with people like Pink, Mariah Carey, and even Valerie Bertinelli. Apparently, she isn't all too fun to work with either because she's kind of a diva with the way that she demands things from people, and working for her isn't much of a treat either. According to those who've worked with her, she is rude and demanding, especially to housekeeping staff, as they've said that they are treated horribly by her. All in all, she is not the nicest person ever, adding to the list of mean Disney stars. At number 6, Vanessa Hudgens. There's another High School Musical alum on this list who's earned a reputation for being mean, and that's Vanessa Hudgens. She was up there with Zac Efron being one of Disney's biggest stars from back in the days when HSM was all the rage, but much like her musical counterpart, she's not as wholesome as her on-screen character might make you think. Vanessa actually has a history of being mean, as fans have recounted stories of their rude encounters with the actress. One fan once said that Vanessa screamed at her while in a department store shopping with her then boyfriend Zac Efron because she was a fan of Zac and all she wanted to do was talk to him. Vanessa caused a scene just because she didn't want to be interrupted by a fan. A recent case of Vanessa being mean comes from her comments about the pandemic that caused her to get cancelled last year. Early on, while the world was still in their first lockdown, Vanessa made some comments about people being affected by COVID and passing away, saying that it is, quote, terrible but inevitable. A lot of people really don't like Vanessa because she just isn't a very nice person and sometimes can say the completely wrong thing. At number 5, Bella Thorne. Out of all of Disney's past actors, Bella Thorne is one of the most controversial and most hated. She's been very outspoken about her time at Disney and how they force her to conform to a specific image, so many of her actions are tied in with that and how she's sort of rebelling against the system, if you will. But a lot of people just don't like that about her. Over the years, she's faced many scandals and controversies, like her most recent OnlyFans scam, where she not only scammed people into paying upwards of $200 for content that isn't necessarily what they were expecting, but also having greatly affected the livelihoods of other creators on the platform because of the scam, and for prompting new guidelines that affect creators' revenue. Other than that scandal, she's also faced a backlash for having used racial slurs online, cheating on her partners, and bashing other celebrities online. Recently, she released a diss track about her ex Tana Mongeau that turned into a Twitter war between them. There have also been reports of Bella stealing from people, as last year an owner of a small business called Bella out for not going through on her deal to promote her brand in exchange for $1,500 worth of jewelry. Bella just is not the nicest person out there. At number 4, Lindsay Lohan. After getting her start by starring in the 1998 Disney film The Parent Trap, Lindsay was catapulted into fame. She starred in a handful of Disney films in the early days of her career, but soon her reputation for being a good actress turned into a reputation for being a mean person and a diva. A lot of people say that Lindsay's diva attitude was caused by her gaining so much fame at such a young age. She became the stereotypical Hollywood diva, having people bow down to her and cater to her every whim with a mere mention of her name. She became known as being really bossy, thinking that she could get away with anything. This then fueled her habit of lying. She's been called out for lying about things like her drug use, all the way to making outrageous claims like having handled the preparations for the body of the late Whitney Houston. A lot of people really just question Lindsay's actions and don't really trust her because she's proven to be a little shady and mean over the years, and people just really don't like that. At number 3, Shia LaBeouf. Former Disney actor Shia LaBeouf, known for his time on Even Stevens, has also faced some controversy because of his actions. He's faced backlash for racism in the past, as he once got into a confrontation with a black police officer and told the officer that he was going to hell because of his skin color. He has also faced criticisms for plagiarism, as he's been caught stealing work from other people, from things like apologies to story plots, and has even been in a few scandals for violence, as he's been involved in many physical altercations over the years. Most recently, he faced scrutiny as his ex-girlfriend FKA Twigs came forward to talk about how he hurt her mentally and physically while in a relationship with him, recounting some of the horrible instances of abuse that she faced while with him. Shia is certainly one of the meanest people to come from Disney. At number 2, Raven-Symoné. That's So Raven star Raven-Symoné has been pretty successful since leaving Disney. She was once part of many Disney productions like The Cheetah Girls and Xenon Girl of the 21st Century, and she was always perceived as nice and family-friendly, but apparently that's not exactly true. Raven also has an offensive and mean side, and people got a glimpse of this when she faced scrutiny after making offensive comments while on the show The View. Raven once made a comment about people's names, saying that she wouldn't hire someone with a, quote, ghetto name like Watermelon Drea. People were mad at Raven for her comments, and some people even accused her of specifically attacking black people with those comments. Though she apologized for her remarks, saying that she's been discriminated against in the hiring process because of things like her appearance, sexual orientation, and age, there were a lot of people who never quite got over what she said, and now she's seen as a mean person. And finally, at number 1, Gina Carano. This recent scandal is one of the first to affect stars affiliated with Disney through its streaming platform Disney+. Actress Gina Carano, known by Disney and Star Wars fans for her role in The Mandalorian, faced backlash because of posts shared to her Instagram stories and on Twitter. The actress shared posts comparing being a Republican to being a victim of the Holocaust, as well as posting anti-mask images and tweets, and even sharing claims of voter fraud from the presidential election in the US. Because these posts were seen as highly offensive to a lot of people, mostly fans of The Mandalorian, Mandalorian, Gina was fired from her role on the Disney Plus series. Fans have also pulled their support from the actress because of a past scandal that she faced where she was seen as transphobic for mocking people who put their pronouns in their social media bios. Gina has garnered a reputation for being offensive, adding yet another star to the list of mean Disney actors. At number 10, Jennifer Lopez. This probably doesn't come as a shock to many, but it turns out that J-Lo isn't very nice. A lot of people have said that she's a real diva, and others say that she's just plain rude, and she's done a number of things that have rubbed people the wrong way. Apparently, the singer/actress is very picky about who may or may not speak to her, and for those permitted to address her, they're not allowed to make eye contact. There have even been reports that she flat out refuses to comply with scripts. This has happened on a few occasions, most notably during filming for a Fiat commercial where they needed to hire a double for Jennifer simply because she just didn't want to do certain things for the shoot. On top of that, she doesn't have a good reputation with a lot of people who's worked with her either. She's said to have completely ignored the people who are remodeling her house. She's gotten a cleaning lady fired for having asked for an autograph, and she even refuses to talk to in-flight staff and pilots on flights and instructs her assistant to talk to them for her. And to make matters worse, even though her staff do so much for her, including communicating for her, they don't get paid very much for their time. Even though she may seem super cool on the surface, she's a little sour in real life. At number 9, Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey isn't the nicest person ever. She's had several run-ins with the paparazzi which have not gone over well, she's had some pretty bad relationships with others, and she's known for being a complete and utter diva. But there's one incident in particular that really just exposes how mean Mariah can be. There was a lawsuit from one of Mariah's former assistants which accused her of a number of horrible things. The former assistant alleged that the singer peed on her, ridiculed her body, and called her a handful of pretty rude names. Her former assistant said that she was hired by the singer to be on call 24/7 and assisted both Mariah and her manager at the time. Though she was paid a salary of $250,000 a year, this wage couldn't cover up the horrible things that she was put through by Mariah. But her case wasn't the only one up against the singer at the time. While this case was being disputed, Mariah had just settled one with her former manager who cited breach of contract, harassment, and unpaid wages. Just because you pay people a lot of money doesn't mean you get to treat them like trash. Now before I carry on with the list, I would like to take a moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, because your likes really help to support the channel and we love to see it. At number 8, Gwyneth Paltrow. A lot of people seem to really dislike Gwyneth Paltrow for some reason. Though she's never really done anything horrible to people directly, it is alleged that she's so disliked in Hollywood because she comes off as pretty pretentious, egotistical, and privileged. People don't really see Gwyneth as the average person or as someone that they can relate to, which a lot of people seem to find off-putting. The Goop founder seems to like flaunting her wealth and materialistic things and makes it seem like it's something that everyone else has or can afford. For example, her Goop website's list of must-have clothing pieces and other things include things that cost hundreds if not thousands of dollars, which not a lot of people can relate to having. On top of that, she came from a wealthy family, so being someone who's always been rich, she doesn't really know how to humble herself around those who haven't been as fortunate as her. People also don't like how she comes across as self-centered, as she seems to always talk about herself and how fit she is and how great her lifestyle is. She also has a diva attitude. She's been known to slam Michelin star restaurants, and if you know what that means, then you know she's got an attitude to do something like that. And to make matters worse, she's been known to demand that people clean and dry the shower at the gym after someone's used it because she, quote, can't touch somebody else's shower water. Yeah. She just has a lot of diva energy and can come across as quite rude, so I can understand why not everyone wants to be her friend. At number 7, James Corden. A lot of people don't like James Corden. Celebrities and regular old Joes like you and me just can't seem to get along with the late night host, and there's a few reasons for this. Turns out that he's actually pretty mean in real life, and this persona that you see on TV is all just an elaborate ruse. In reality, James is arrogant, rude, and a huge diva. There are a bunch of stories that paint James as a mean person. Firstly, he was once part of a group of people who advocated for paying late night writers less money. Yeah, you heard that right. He's also been known to use a good old "do you know who I am" line quite a number of times, and he's even reportedly told someone that he could buy them if they didn't do what he wanted. There's a lot of problematic energy to unpack there, but that is a whole other video. On top of that, there's been incidents of fans catching James being mean to his wife and letting his temper get the best of him at times. A lot of people say that he only acts nice in order to butt kiss his way to the top, and he doesn't care who he takes down in the process. But I think people are starting to catch on to this ruse because more and more people are starting to dislike him. Just ask Twitter. At number 6, Amy Schumer. It seems like Amy Schumer doesn't really care about what people think of her. In a way, that can be a good thing because you learn to live your life for yourself, but it can also give you an attitude and prevent you from thinking about your actions and how they can impact others. An example of this comes from an incident from back in 2018 where Amy full-on stole a comedian's stand-up set. Amy was at a comedy club and up on stage, an up-and-coming comedian was doing one of his first long sets, and obviously this was a pretty big deal for the guy until Amy ruined it. She walked into the venue and went to the manager to ask if she could steal 10 minutes of stage time because she wanted to practice her new set. Because the other comedian just started on stage, the manager said no, so Amy hit back with the "but I'm Amy Schumer." Like that's really gonna do something. After getting refusals left and right, she decided to take matters into her own hands and marched up on the stage and just took over his time for a few minutes. I know Amy is a big timer, but come on, you have to remember what it was like to be up and coming, and that kind of behavior is just rude. At number 5, Katherine Heigl. A lot of people don't like Katherine Heigl because of how rude she is. She's known in the film industry for being pretty mean and having a diva attitude. She's allegedly mean to people on set, has high demands, and just has a very bad overall attitude. She's known to be quite critical of her roles and the material that she's given to work with, and she even said this when she withdrew from the Emmy nominations because she said that the material she was given for Grey's Anatomy didn't warrant an Emmy. That is certainly disrespectful to the writers because for someone to say something like that implies that the writing wasn't good enough to please people, whereas the people at the Emmys thought it was worth an award. And on top of that, winning this kind of award looks good for the team, but Katherine obviously didn't think of that. She only thought about herself. The actress is known to make ridiculously high salary demands, and she's apparently been doing this since before she became a big name in the industry. She's reportedly hired and fired a lot of publicists and assistants over the years, so she really sounds like quite the diva and a horrible boss too. Because of all this, directors and Hollywood execs just don't want to work with her anymore, and honestly, I can't really say that I blame them. At number 4, Michael Phelps. Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps is often referred to as the best swimmer of all time, but it seems like his aquatic skills are really the only thing he's got going for him, since apparently he's got a pretty bad attitude and is pretty rude in real life. Michael has done some bad stuff in his life, so people already don't think that highly of him as an individual. Back in 2014, he was arrested for driving under the influence, and speaking of under the influence, Phelps has also been caught with drugs before. Already, this isn't good for his image because being an Olympian, people have a lot of eyes on you. Phelps was reprimanded for his drunk driving and was suspended from swimming for 6 months, but other than that, this scandal was kept pretty under wraps. Now if only they could have put that much energy into Sha'Carri Richardson. On top of this swimmer being a felon, he's also known to not be a team player. Apparently he hides himself away from his other teammates when at competitions like the Olympics instead of being with his team to support them. You would think that being at something like the Olympics, you would want to soak up all that team spirit, but no. Michael wants nothing to do with his team and instead flies solo. Kind of mean if you ask me. At number 3, Jared Leto. You may like Jared Leto on screen, but off screen he's kind of a jerk. There's even a list online that tallies up all the reasons that make him a bad person. And if something like that exists, then you know something's up. Some of the reasons listed as to why Jared sucks so much include the fact that he's been caught being mean to fans, he's rude to reporters during interviews, and he's offended the trans community after winning an Oscar for his performance in Dallas Buyers Club and not mentioning the trans community in his speech, as well as undermining the struggles of the trans community after joking about his appearance in character. Jared has also admitted to lying during interviews whenever possible for absolutely no reason, and people found his Joker antics on the set of Suicide Squad to be a little mean because of the pranks that he would play on people as well as the gifts that he would send to the cast and crew. Most of the allegations against Jared and his attitude are pretty minor, but add them all up and you get someone that you might not necessarily enjoy having around. But what do you guys think? You still want to be his friend? At number 2, Christina Aguilera. Christina Aguilera may have the voice of an angel, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she is one. Turns out she has a bit of a dark side, and a handful of people have experienced it. Other than being shady at Lady Gaga during their 2008 feud, where she called her some unpleasant names and said, quote, "I'm not quite sure who this person is, to be honest, I don't know if it's a man or a woman," end quote. She's also had some other rude encounters with more of her peers. When working on the set of her various gigs, she's reportedly always late, holds up production, and never apologizes for delaying production. She also reportedly has some beef with Adam Levine while working on The Voice, and they would bicker constantly. Christina is also known to be an absolute diva, and working with her seems to be a nightmare because sources say that she's very rude and demanding of her household staff and treats her staff poorly, insisting that they are on call 24/7. Christina also has had feuds with Pink, Mariah Carey, and even got mad at Mickey Mouse once. Yeah, she got into a heated argument with Mickey Mouse when she was at Disneyland in 2014 for her birthday. She wanted to take a picture with the mouse, but he was going on break, so instead of being an understanding person, she pulled the "Do you know who I am" card. I mean, how can you do that to Mickey? What did Mickey do? And finally, at number 1, Bruce Willis. Actor Bruce Willis has had a great career making great movies and basking in fame, but it seems as though he's not all that great in real life. Apparently, Bruce is a nightmare to work with as he's gotten into a number of conflicts with others on set, and people just really hate working with him. Before Die Hard launched his film career, he was brought into stardom after working on the show Moonlighting alongside his co-star Sybil Shepherd. Back in 2005, Shepherd told sources that there came a point where her relationship with Bruce became really toxic and they clashed a lot on set. There was reportedly constant bickering and it was just a really bad working environment. But of course, Sybil isn't the only one to have clashed with Bruce while working together. Filmmaker Kevin Smith has also had his troubles working with Bruce while filming the 2010 film Cop Out. He told sources that though he once saw Bruce as his hero in past productions, that opinion completely went out the window, saying that working with Bruce was difficult. When speaking out about their time together on set, Kevin said, quote, "He turned out to be the unhappiest, most bitter, and meanest emo B-word I've ever met at any job I've held down, and mind you, I worked at Domino's Pizza. What an awful experience." End quote. Now I just wonder if something triggers this horrible behavior or if he's just always like this.
In at number 10, Mel Gibson.
I deserve to be first until I burn the house down. But me first.
What's even more disturbing is that what you just heard was the 4th phone call, and surprisingly enough, that one was the least aggressive out of all of them. The odd thing about Mel Gibson is that throughout the 80s and 90s, he was like a nice and well-respected leading actor. He was becoming well known for movies like Lethal Weapon, and some believe that his ego just started getting a little too big. These vicious voicemails are the result of a drinking problem combined with coping that he was no longer Hollywood's go-to guy. With that much pent-up anger and untreated mental illness, he was destined to be one of the rudest actors in the scene. In at number 9, Jon Hamm.
I have the nerve to not be in love with Jon Hamm.
What happened?
I just think he's like douchey. Like, I've known Hammy since he was a doctor on some Lifetime show.
Say what you will about Kathy Griffin, but I actually feel bad for her in this scenario. Here she is getting invited to an exclusive Hollywood dinner, getting to meet Jack Nicholson for the first time, only to have Jon Hamm right in her ear. No matter who you ask in Hollywood, most people will fawn over how much they adore Jon Hamm, yet Kathy has consistently upheld that he is one of the rudest celebrities that she's ever met. In her memoir, she wrote about how Hamm had repeatedly harassed her at a party for no reason whatsoever. While intoxicated, he called her old and topped it off by saying that her career was a failure. It's no wonder he worked so well as Don Draper in Mad Men, because that's actually who this celebrity embodies most. In at number 8, Christian Bale.
Like this in the background. What the f is it with you?
When this tape leaked, Christian Bale not only had to go on a press tour for his new movie, but an apology tour as well. That Christian Bale rant had so many expletives in it, I was almost certain we wouldn't even be able to use the clip. While filming The Terminator Salvation, a crew member had accidentally walked onto the set, interrupting Bale while he was acting. This sent the celebrity into a downward spiral of anger where the F word suddenly became punctuation for his sentences. He nearly stopped all production on the movie just so that he could release his frustrations on the hard-working film crew. We get that some acting requires intense focus, but regardless if someone breaks that focus, that doesn't give the actor license to scream at other people. They're humans too. In at number 7, Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones definitely gives off those vibes that he'd be a grumpy old man in real life, but don't take my word for it. Listen to Joan and Melissa Rivers, who actually had to come into contact with him.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, no question.
He's at the top of everybody's lists.
Why?
Because he doesn't want to be there. He's unhappy doing the red carpet.
They've had direct interactions with the celebrity, and every time that they're asked this question, they put him as the worst to deal with. Joan has stated before that he acts like a snob because he went to Yale and therefore believes that he's better than everyone else. In at number 6, Sean Penn. Sean Penn is no stranger to letting his true colors shine bright. In 2009, he assaulted a paparazzi and vandalized his car, and he once served 60 days in jail for punching a background actor and had to do 300 hours of community service for kicking another photographer. And then in 2013, while he was at a restaurant in a swanky San Francisco hotel, he witnessed a guy trying to just take a photo of him, and he freaked out again. Is Sean Penn secretly a vampire that doesn't want his soul removed from taking photos? Like, I honestly don't get it. I understand how this could become very annoying after a while, but it still doesn't excuse this kind of disruptive behavior. According to TMZ, he walked over and slammed the man's phone on the table before telling him that he would make him eat his phone. Then as he was being escorted out, he screamed, "Do we look like zoo animals?" Yikes. In at number 5, Jared Leto.
Big ups, man. Yeah, nice.
What's your name?
Grinder.
Oh, okay. I'll get
Jared Leto certainly has had his awkward moments in the press and on stage, as you saw there. Upon looking into interactions with the celebrity, I found multiple articles about how he terrorized the cast and crew of Suicide Squad. He fully committed to the role of the Joker, and it was, well, nasty to say the least. He treated Margot Robbie as if she were Harley Quinn, so imagine that kind of daily dialogue. Plus, he sent her a rat as a gift. And before they even started filming, Leto decided to give everyone on set a gift. Sounds nice, but nope. Viola Davis witnessed the incident and said he did some bad things, Jared Leto did. He gave some really horrific gifts. He had a henchman who would come into the rehearsal room, and the henchman came in with a dead pig and plopped it on the table, and then he walked out. And that was our introduction to Jared Leto. In at number 4, Tobey Maguire. Looks like Tobey becoming Spider-Man was a terrible thing for his ego. Aside from having a terrible reputation with fans who just want autographs, Tobey's rude behavior has even been documented in the memoir called Molly's Game, which was later then turned into a movie with Jessica Chastain. The author Molly Bloom said that Tobey actually offered her a $1,000 poker chip at a high-stakes game in 2014. But there was a catch. She said Maguire told her to bark like a seal. And when she refused, she said Maguire told her, "I'm not kidding. What's wrong? You're too rich now? You won't bark for $1,000? Geez, can't get ruder than that. Or can we?" In at number 3, Catherine Zeta-Jones. Catherine Zeta-Jones apparently really did a number on a young fan of hers way back, and it truly is unforgivable. The woman remembers going to an advanced screening of The Mask of Zorro when she was only 8 years old, and she actually had a chance to interact with Catherine, and she excitedly told the star that she wanted to be an actress as well. The woman then said, "She turned to me, looked me up and down, and said, 'You're pretty enough, I suppose,' then went back to her conversation." The woman went on to claim that in many ways that moment was the turning point when she went from feeling at ease in the world to constantly thinking about how everyone was judging her based on her appearance. Damn it, Zeta-Jones. In at number 2, Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell is a comedian and known for crossing the line a few times, even as she worked as a host for The View. Unfortunately for Rosie, she never really learned to kind of turn off that rude behavior, that attack dog style commentary, and especially when it came to her personal life. According to reports, the reason why she was fired from The View was due to multiple people on set saying that she was far too mean to finish the season with. That was in 2007 and meant that she wouldn't even complete the first season of the show. Rosie did eventually return back to the program later on, but promised that she would be a much calmer version. However, that comeback only lasted 5 months after she released her contract to focus on her family following a divorce with her husband. Entertainment Tonight had interviewed some of the staff that worked with O'Donnell, and here's what they found. O'Donnell, who has a reputation as a demanding and sometimes abrasive boss, didn't feel like her strengths were being properly used by ABC, according to those close to the 52-year-old comedian. Adding to the problem, there was also tensions with co-host Whoopi Goldberg and behind-the-scenes executive turmoil as well, which recently shifted to management under ABC News. Rosie confirmed to be rude. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase is without a doubt a legendary comedic actor, but all of those pratfalls he did in his youth must have really turned him into a grumpy old man. He has earned himself perhaps the worst reputation in Hollywood just from being extremely difficult to work with. I mean, when it works, but most of the time he is a huge pain. When actor and comedian Rob Huebel met Chevy at the Upright Citizens Brigade show, he was so excited that he accidentally interrupted a conversation that he was in. Rob was a longtime fan and just couldn't contain his joy, but Chevy responded by slapping him in the face and then said, "Can't you see I'm talking to somebody, kid?"
Will Smith has been making us laugh for many years, but people have warned us that he is not the same person that we see on our screens. Is Will Smith the rudest celebrity in Hollywood? I have to start off by saying, personally, I am a huge fan of Will Smith, and I always have been. I can't speak on this because I've never met him, but there have been examples shared online of not so pleasant experiences with the actor. One of them is when a fellow actor and comedian, Paul Rodriguez, came forward saying Will wasn't nice when they worked together on the movie Ali. Actually, he called him an if I'm being real and transparent. Paul went on the radio and said that Will was an and did steroids to bulk up for his role as the legendary boxer. He didn't elaborate on details, but claimed he also said really offensive and racist things. Will denied these allegations and even addressed the steroid claims, saying that he did not use steroids and said that he prepared his body for that role for over a year by boxing every day for hours, studying Islam, and working with dialect coaches. If he was doing steroids, it might explain why he was acting like an a-hole, but this is all just she said, he said, so we really won't know. It's just kind of whose side of the story you believe on that one. Actress Janet Hubert, who played Aunt Viv on his iconic TV series The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, has also had very negative things to say about him. She called him an egomaniac and told TMZ, "I will never do anything with like Will Smith." Fans actually turned against Will during this time because her character was replaced on the show and everyone pointed the finger at him. Aunt Viv was a huge fan favorite of the show, but Will said he had nothing to do with it. He responded to some of her remarks and said, "She's mad now, but she's been mad all along." She once said, "I've been in the business for 10 years and this snotty-nosed punk comes along and gets a show. No matter what, to her, I'm just the Antichrist." That does sound a little personal between those two. So, I mean, I'm sure people have called me an a-hole. Doesn't mean you gotta believe them. Like, I'm actually a really nice person. Another thing that people often criticize him for is his parenting. His son Jaden Smith has landed in controversy on a number of occasions, and people have pointed the finger at the parents. During an interview with Vanity Fair, people claim that he actually threw his kids under the bus. Both of his kids, Willow and Jaden, show their freedom of expression through their unique style, which they often get criticized for. When asked about it, Will said, "I praise their freedom of expression and consciously encourage them to have. I think it may have been a mistake. I think we might have gone too far." He did say it with a chuckle and like a light tone, but some people interpret it as being disrespectful towards his kids and kind of just toss them under the bus. Like, shouldn't you defend your kids at all times? That's where people were going with that. It also doesn't help that his wife, Jada Smith, admitted during an interview that Will makes insensitive comments to their kids, even in their personal life. During an interview, she said that Will occasionally makes insensitive remarks to their daughter Willow regarding her period. She said, "Willow has gone at her dad several times for very insensitive comments, whether it's around menstruation or, you must be PMSing." Jada admitted that she talked to Will about it and said that it is a work in progress. She explained that her husband is often a jokester who needs to be corrected and called out for hurtful comments sometimes. I think it really comes down to where his intentions are. Sometimes jokes can go too far, even if you weren't intending them to be hurtful, right? But is that a valid excuse? What do you guys think? Let me know what your thoughts are on Will Smith. However, when it comes to fans and people meeting him in person, he does have a lot of positive experiences. On Mean Stars, he was rated 80% for being nice, and overall, Hollywood has been in love with him for years. He was chosen to play the genie in the new Aladdin live-action remake, and there's no doubt that it's a family-friendly, lovable character. Many people said that he was the perfect fit for it, which I agree. I did a little test though, just out of curiosity, and if you go to Google and type in "I love Will Smith," there are over 1 billion results. If you go in and type "I hate Will Smith," there are 171 million, so there is a huge gap between the two. However, that is a lot of hate.
Jennifer Lawrence is known for her brash, no BS attitude, but that attitude gets her in trouble a lot, and many people wonder if she's actually just rude. That's why today on BTS, we're going to be breaking down the top 10 times Jennifer Lawrence was caught being rude in public. In at number 10, culturally insensitive. Jennifer got into a massive scandal after she admitted to being insensitive to the Hawaiian culture. Basically, Jen was filming the Hunger Games in Hawaii, and in the movie she wears wetsuits a lot, which can get pretty itchy. So in 2016 on the Graham Norton show, she admitted that she'd scratched her butt on some sacred ceremonial rocks while filming in Hawaii. She said, quote, "There were sacred rocks. I don't know, they were ancestors, who knows? They were sacred, and you're not supposed to sit on them because you're not supposed to expose your genitalia to them. I, however, was in a wetsuit for this whole shoot. Oh my god, they were so good for butt itching. Apparently, she moved the rock so much at one point one came loose and started a landslide. The Hawaiian people thought it was a sign of a curse, but it was just Jen being disrespectful. She tried to be funny and relatable while telling the story and didn't think she would get in any trouble, but people were angry at how nonchalantly she admitted to disrespecting Hawaii. After the backlash, she posted an apology to Facebook, but many didn't buy it. And at number 9, weight insensitivity. One thing many fans know about Jen is that she speaks off the cuff and rarely filters out what she says, which can cause a lot of funny moments as well as a lot of insensitive ones. One thing she gets steady backlash about is her comments about her own weight. Jen has been open about the toxicity of weight in Hollywood and says that she was often asked to lose weight before movies. Because of this, she's been quoted saying, quote, "In Hollywood, I'm obese. I'm considered a fat actress. I'm Val Kilmer in that one picture on the beach." Another quote said, quote, "I eat like a caveman. I'll be the only actress that doesn't have anorexia rumors." Many people take these comments to be body positive, and although we love that she won't lose weight for movies, she's also already pretty slender, so giving the middle finger to the man here is a lot easier for her. And when someone the size of Jen calls herself fat, that makes anyone larger than her feel even more insecure about their own weight. Like if Jen calls herself overweight, literally what am I? I know it's all jokes, but the self-deprecation can seem pretty insincere at times. And at number 8, biphobic comments. Another thing that's gotten Jen heat in the press has been some biphobic comments that she made about one of the characters she played. She played X-Men character Mystique in the movie franchise, and was shocked to learn that the character was actually bisexual. When speaking about the character's sexuality, she said, quote, "She has kids, she has night crawlers, and she sleeps with Magneto. Unless I'm completely wrong, I mean, she's 100 years old, she definitely had time for a lesbian phase." And obviously that phrase is gonna anger a lot of people in the community who've been working hard to break those stigmas, especially because bisexuality is not a phase. Jen also called her own style at one point, quote, "slutty power lesbian," because she had a pixie haircut, which is just wrong on so many levels. And at number 7, trash reporter. Jennifer Lawrence got massive backlash after she was rude to a reporter at the 2016 Golden Globes. After she accepted the award, she was in the press room answering questions from tons of reporters. At one point, a Spanish reporter who was speaking with an accent started asking a question, but he was looking at his phone the whole time. Jennifer tried to joke around by telling the reporter to put down his phone if he wanted to ask her questions. She also mocked him after he mistook the event for the Oscars. However, it was pretty obvious that he was just reading his questions off his phone, which is pretty common for reporters these days. After her rude comments, hate flooded in against the star. People also gave the perspective that the reporter may have been translating his questions into English, that's why he was staring at his phone. It also just rubbed people the wrong way that she assumed that everyone speaks English. And at number 6, paparazzi. Like many other celebrities in Hollywood, Jennifer Lawrence hates paparazzi. But really, I mean, who can blame her? And she makes a point to bring up her disdain for paparazzi whenever possible. Like in one interview with Vogue, where she said, quote, "If I were just your average 23-year-old girl and I called the police to say that there were strange men sleeping on my lawn and following me to Starbucks, they would leap into action. But because I'm a famous person, well, sorry ma'am, there's nothing we can do. It makes no sense." Jen has also talked about how she doesn't like fame and how fan interactions make her really uncomfortable. So that's obviously a big part of the reason that she maintains such a low profile most of the time. Halfway at number 5, Lindsay Lohan. Jennifer Lawrence has poked fun at many fellow celebrities over the years, but none was worse than when she made some nasty comments about Lindsay Lohan. While Jennifer Lawrence was on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert in 2015, Lawrence offended Lindsay Lohan and her family. It started when Lawrence was talking about how she got a stomach virus while filming, but she still kept shooting. Then she made the comment, quote, "I get like Lindsay Lohan grade exhaustion, but without any drugs or alcohol." And obviously those kinds of words will start a fight with anybody. Almost right after the show aired, Lohan's younger sister, Aliana, tweeted out, quote, "I never breathe life into negativity, but I stand by my family. Disappointed in Jennifer Lawrence, not cool." Lindsay Lohan then replied to the tweet saying, quote, "Thank you, sister. Maybe who you're referring to should learn to support others like Maya Angelou." Lohan's mom also commented on the incident weeks later, so it's safe to say Lohan's family and fans hate Jennifer Lawrence. And at number 4, Lala Kent. This is another example of Jen talking trash about a fellow celebrity and then getting called out. While Jen was on an episode of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, she decided to take aim at Vanderpump Rules star Lala Kent. It started when Andy was asking Jennifer what she thought of the cast of Vanderpump Rules. When the conversation went to Lala, Lawrence straight up called her the C word, along with tons of other digs at her. As a response, Lala tweeted out, quote, "Did Jennifer Lawrence really call me the C word on Watch What Happens Live and talk about my mama? B, you better pray I don't see you in the streets." And that was just the first of a long string of now deleted tweets. The shade didn't stop there, Lala went on the Juicy Scoop podcast and called out Jennifer further. She said that Lawrence had, quote, 2 failed films in a row, and said that she was the type of girl that would sleep with Harvey Weinstein for a role. Lawrence never responded to any of the shade, probably because she knew she was in the wrong. And at number 3, Jennifer Lopez. I wouldn't classify this one as rude as much as just proving that Jennifer Lawrence can be very over dramatic. The feud started when Lawrence was on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and Lawrence shared a story from the Met Ball. Apparently Jennifer Lawrence and Jimmy Kimmel were very drunk and wanted to ask J-Lo to dance. Apparently they went over to her and she turned them down, with Lopez saying she just wanted to observe. And even though the story was lighthearted, it still made J-Lo look kinda bad for saying no. So J-Lo decided to set the record straight, and she actually came up with her version of events. She told Access Hollywood, quote, "I remember that we were at the Met Ball and Kanye was about to perform, and it was like a crazy moment. And then they came over and they were like, let's go dance, and I was like, no, I'm good right here. But I didn't mean it like I don't want to dance with you, I just meant it like it's so crowded in here, let's just stay right here." So she basically called out J-Lo on TV for no reason. And at number 2, rude to fans. Probably one of the most bizarre things about Jennifer Lawrence is that she's admitted that she hates speaking to fans. It's so bad that she's decided to be really rude to fans so they leave her alone. Interesting strategy. When speaking with Adam Sandler, she told him, quote, "Generally once I enter a public place, I become incredibly rude. I turn into a huge a-hole." She then continued that it's her way of defending herself, and that she acts like this to make sure nobody crosses any boundaries. And just to contrast how terrible Jen sounded here, Adam Sandler said he makes a point to be really nice to his fans, saying, quote, "My life's nearing the end. I want to meet as many people as I can." And finally, number 1, hurricane. Jennifer Lawrence has become increasingly more political over the years, and she was frequently critical of Donald Trump during his presidency. However, she got some heat after she made some comments about hurricanes. From the quotes that were taken, it seemed like Jennifer Lawrence was blaming the influx of hurricanes on Trump's win, saying that Mother Nature was raging. She was harshly criticized for the comments, so she posted a statement about the incident on her Facebook page. She wrote in part, quote, "My remarks were taken grossly out of context. Obviously, I never claimed that President Trump was responsible for these tragic hurricanes. That is a silly and preposterous headline that is unfortunate, because it detracts from the millions of lives that are being impacted by these devastating storms and the recent earthquakes."